Veilguard is the end of an era. It's the end of Solas' storyline, it's the end of the struggles of the Inquisitor, and even the end of the Blight, which was the basis of the entire series up until this point. But Veilguard is not the end of Dragon Age. It's the beginning of an all-new story. Regardless of if you enjoyed the latest entry, the devs have placed little hints at there being more to this beloved world, and they've given us updated lore that leaves us with a lot more questions than answers. It's natural for some to be a bit confused, so I figured I'd lend my lore expertise and help explain everything we got in Veilguard, so sit back, relax, and I'll get on with my rambling. One of the most important parts of playing Veilguard and the understanding of its plot is witnessing Solas' regrets. All around the lighthouse are murals that Solas has painted, much like what we saw a decade ago in the rotunda at Skyhold, but these murals have unfortunately worn away with time, or rather worn away from repression. Solas is guilt-ridden. It's a core aspect of his entire character. He woke from his millennia-long sleep to help the elves back into this age of immortality and magic, to absolve himself of the guilt of putting them in a position of total mortality and destroying their homes and culture. Unfortunately, he's picked up a few more regrets along the way as well, ones that weren't quite so obvious. To find and view these regrets, you must pick up wolf statuettes, and they're not hard to gather. You get one just by meeting up with the Inquisitor in Veilguard. From there, you view the regrets in the lighthouse by placing them on a pedestal in front of the corresponding regret. They seem to be in a linear order as well, so you shouldn't be too worried about viewing them out of that set order. I'll post a link to a full walkthrough in the description, should you need it.
You cannot do this, Algernon. You swore that we would give up our commands when this horrific war was over.
Our people need our leadership. If you're unwilling, leave.
Our people must rebuild, and we must help unite them.
So, we did not fight for freedom, but to conquer this land and our own.
We fought to win, and now the Evenuris are as gods. I do not answer to Mythal's annoying lapdog.
The people are afraid. They must believe in something.
They need strength.
And wisdom.
They need gods who can protect them.
We are not gods. You will learn that.
Every lapdog hides a wolf inside.
The first wolf statuette allows you to view what we all have known since Trespasser. Mythal and Elgernon named themselves gods over the elves, despite the fact they were just powerful mages. It seems here that there was some sort of war and that the Evenuris only exacted their power over the other elves because they needed leadership, and Elgernon does not want to let go of that power. It also seems that Mythal agrees with Elgernon, at least at first, and proceeds to say that the elves need someone to help them rebuild. The elves are deeply afraid after something horrific has happened, and we get the same old song and dance from Solas, him rising up against the threat of tyranny. This is a good refresher for most and doesn't really tell us much aside from the fact Elgernon really is a massive asshole and always has been, but also that there was some sort of conflict. Pretty simple as far as that goes. Solas' regret here is more than likely not retaliating in that moment. He feels that he has allowed this to happen, despite the fact he was called nothing more than a lapdog to Mythal.
I was not certain you would come.
You were the one who walked away. I never turn my back when my friend needs me.
The Evenuris seek the magic of the Blight.
Impossible. The Blight is safely sealed away forever.
Though I wish I could believe you. I have sensed the breaking of the wards.
I will investigate your claims. If they forget the danger of the Blight, I will endeavor to remind them.
What if, instead, you left the Evenuris and remained with me? Do you not wish for freedom from this struggle?
Be at peace, love. I will stop them.
As you must. The Blight is our mistake.
This is where things get really juicy. It's implied that Solas is deeply in love with Mythal. They were doing it. And there's obvious parallels between a romance Llewellyn and Solas. However, the key thing to take away here is that Solas wished for Mythal to stay with him. Unfortunately, she thought that she could stop the Evenuris from using the Blight as some sort of magical weapon, and we all know how that worked out, don't we? Major L, as the kids say. This regret also lets us know that the Blight was their mistake, or our mistake, as Solas puts it. This brings a lot of other things into perspective. While we know at this point that the Blight is from the Fade, or was released released from the Fade by the Magisters and brought down to make the first Darkspawn, we never really knew what the source was. In my Gillenane and the Blight video, I theorized it had something to do with the Forgotten Ones, but we'll actually learn that it was not them at all. Either way, it does seem that once they realized that they could use the Blight, the Evanuris went ham with it, and Solas regrets having made it or discovered it in the first place. To me, this regret in of itself gives more depth to Solas. Although I was a Solas lover from Inquisition, so take that with a grain of salt, I suppose. We're led to believe that Solas is arrogant, and he is, but he also carries a lot of guilt from having done these terrible things. He sees the writing on the wall and he feels helpless in this moment. He's trying to be vulnerable with this person he loves, and yet he knows nothing will change. He has to take matters into his own hands, and can you blame him for doing so? This regret also leads me to believe that this is the last time he ever sees Mythal alive. There's a story that I talk about in my Gillenane video and my Iceberg video about Andrewel and the armor she put on that was made from the Void. I have every reason to believe, especially after the conversation between Balara and Rook after this regret, that Andrewel put on the armor made from the Blight to hunt the Forgotten Ones, who directly opposed the Evanuris for whatever reason, and then she killed Mythal in the process, as it was Mythal who came to her in the form of a dragon to fight her and take the knowledge of the Blight from her.
You dare to try to cage us, jealous of our growing power!
You will pay the final price for this betrayal.
We warned you not to use the Blight. For this, and for Mythal, I sentence you to sleep in exile ever after. Your own lives will form the veil that keeps the horror you unleashed at bay.
This regret is a doozy. From this one alone, we have several things confirmed. The Evanuris are already blighted, and it can be assumed that after this, Mythal is gone and Elgranon is no longer in check. There are only 7 gods here, leaving Solas out and Mythal as well. It is here that we learn that the Veil is comprised of the Evanuris' life force, and without them, it will completely come down. We have this confirmed near the end of Veilguard as well, when it's revealed that Solas wants to kill Gillenane and Elgranon to bring down the Veil, rather than to save the world. All of the Evanuris went to sleep, or Euthanara as it's called in the Elven language, as does Solas, but the plot doesn't stop there. This whole regret confirms that not only is Solas the Maker, or at least the metaphorical figure, if he ever did exist beyond that. The Maker created the Veil and the Fade from his throne in the Golden City, which turned into the Black City once the Blight was unleashed into the world, and that is exactly where the Evanuris had been kept asleep. It's here that we can assume Andraste and Solas also have some sort of connection, although I may make a separate video on that if people want it. I say this because Solas is quite obviously spelled out as the Maker, and Andraste may have been his first attempt at making things right by not bringing down the Veil. It is stated that she convinced the Maker to help save his children, and a lot of people theorize that Andraste has some sort of connection to Mythal as well. Whether or not we'll ever have this confirmed is up in the air. I don't think we will, but the theories are fun at least. Here, it is plain that Solas regrets having made the Veil in the first place. Although I'm not sure what else he could have done if all of his allies were gone or could not help him. Pelisan can only do so much when faced with 7 angry, blighted gods, but I know he would have at least tried. In the end, though, this still happened, and now Solas must live with that fact. He cut off everyone from direct magic and sent Theta spiraling out of control.
You have so long observed the world. Why not consider joining it?
But I have no desire to live as humans. I have the Fade. Besides, there's talk of taking on a solid form. I think you underestimate the danger. When you took the glowing stone to build your body, did the earth not shake?
Delirium gives us the strength we had when we were of the Fade. We are the best of physical and spirit. I need your wisdom, Solas, to withstand the louder voices who would go too far like Elganon. I need you.
This is madness. You must know that. I will always follow where you go.
This confirmation was out of left field for me. not only did we get an answer as to what war could have been hinted at in Regret 1, we also found out the elves were once spirits. I guess some people had this on their bingo cards, but I sure didn't. I suppose it makes sense since Solas's name directly means pride, which is a concept and a name usually given to spirits or demons within Dragon Age. Either way, we now know that elves took the lyrium from the Titans and crafted their bodies with it, and an edge on everything else. It was an evolutionary step, so to speak. However, this was quite the problem because lyrium is Titan blood and you have to mine for lyrium. Obviously, this hurts the Titan itself and also takes quite a bit away from the dwarves themselves, which existed at the same time as the elves. The regret here is plain and simple as well. Solas did not want to have a physical form, and it can also be said that he feels responsible for failing Mythal because he did not temper Elgernon, but I'm not sure he would have ever been able to.
Have you created what we need?
With this, the proper ritual will sunder every Titan from its spirit. But you must know those severed dreams will certainly be driven mad. A disembodied blight of pain and anger. It is awful what we're doing.
And the only way to end this war.
Solas himself created the dagger that destroyed the Titans, and it is now the dagger that we wield. On top of that, the Blight was created by the elves, ending the war between the dwarves and the Evanuris. This horrible disease that has haunted every living being in Thedas for hundreds of years is the embodiment of pain and suffering from the Titans. This is a lot to take in. The Titans never asked for any of this, and neither did the elves that were not responsible for their sundering, yet it still happened and nothing can truly be done about it. There is a much larger message to be spread about how the Titans stand for this metaphor of generational trauma and how it affects the world, but that's for another video as well. Obviously, this is terrible, and Harding has every right to be as angry as she is about the plight of her own people. Without Solas and Mythal's actions, things would not be as awful as they are now, with the Blight having disproportionately affected the dwarves in the coming centuries. As someone from a minority background, especially an ethnic minority background, this hit very close to home. From a story perspective, it says a lot that this is a part of Solas's regrets as well. He could have stopped at being upset that he was forced into a body he didn't want, but he is specifically saddened by the fact the Titans will be sundered from their dreams, that they will be driven mad. This isn't something he really sees as a means to an end. It seems that he is incredibly reluctant to do this, and that Mythal is the one who is asking him to do it, blinded by her own need to protect her people, regardless of the consequences.
I knew that you would find me soon enough. You need the power of a god, the strength that I alone still carry.
The blighted Evanuris will soon break free from their prison. I must make a stronger one that can contain them.
While the prison is important, it is not the only goal you seek.
Why should I not tear down the veil and bring back immortality to all the elven people? They deserve it.
The elven people of today do not deserve to see the world they love be torn apart to salve your conscience.
I must fix what I have broken. I am sorry.
As am I, old friend.
This last regret is something that we could easily guess. At the end of Inquisition, Solas takes power from Flemeth, having been revealed as Mythal at the beginning of Dragon Age 2, who houses quite a bit of powerful magic. Getting rid of her was a necessary evil. Not only would she get in the way, an ironic parallel to what happened before the events of Dragon Age, but he needed that power to combat the other Evanuris that he knew were waking up. Obviously, he regrets killing off what he knows to be the last remaining vestige of someone he loves. These regrets really color how we see Solas, whether it makes you even angrier at him, or makes you sad, or even a mix. It gives us answers to some of the lore, yet it isn't all of it. There are still some things that need to be explained, and they all come back to this ancient era of the elves. As far as we know, the other Evanuris have been sealed away forever, or lost in the Veil. While I think this is an oversight, and is quite saddening, at least we're seemingly getting some information when it comes to the Forgotten Ones. For those who don't know, the Forgotten Ones were the supposed antithesis to the Evanuris. Although I'm not sure what that says about them now that we know the Evanuris were deeply evil for the most part. It's said that during the Great Betrayal, more than likely the event of creating the Veil, the Forgotten Ones were sealed away in the Abyss, which exists somewhere within the Void. We only meet one of these creatures, Anaris, who seems to be attempting to come back to the mortal plane through blood magic. He's the antagonist of Balara's questline, and he also seems to be incredibly afraid of something. Upon killing him and stopping his ritual, Anaris specifically says,
Send me!
I must escape. It's I.
There's something or someone within the void that Inaris is deeply frightened of. He is actively trying to get away from it and is going to great lengths to do so. I believe this has something to do with the secret ending of the game itself. Over and over again, we're told about the storm across the sea and that there are characters out there who know that something is coming, and it all has to do with these people called the Executors. The people of Thedas do not normally venture outside of the bounds of their land. It's incredibly dangerous, and for the most part, none of the explorers ever return. One of the only times we hear of something across the sea is in Inquisition, where we can investigate strange chalk markings at Inquisition campsites. This small war table mission sends us down a rabbit hole that ends with us getting a letter from the Executors. For now, they tell us that we are their allies and that Corypheus isn't an enemy to everyone. However, I believe this is all a ploy. You see, if you solve a series of puzzles in Arlathan, defeat the Forbidden One-possessed dragon in the necropolis, and explore the area where the fragment of Mythal is hiding in the crossroads, you can listen to these strange voices.
They interrupt, as predicted, as expected, as hoped.
What was that?
Learn, adapt, triumph. You return, we are content.
Why are you here? What do you want?
Not now, not yet. We will show you soon.
This just gets weirder every time.
Thank you for your service, Matt Mercer. This is the voice of the Executors. For the rest of the game, we don't know who this is until you get the ending credits scene because you did the side mission.
The storm quelled. The sun dimmed. The wolf defanged. At last, we have balanced. Guided. Whispered. And soon, the poisoned fruit ripens. We come.
Everything from the first blight to the events of Veilguard seem to be orchestrated. These Executors, with their strange markings that are placed all over the series, are planning for something, and I think we'll see what that is in the next game. Whoever these people are, whether they are eldritch monstrosities, spirits, or simply people we have never met before, they seem to be bringing something into being. And regardless of what we've done, they were all the right decisions. Some people think this is poor writing, and to that I say, well, Dragon Age just isn't for you, or that we have differing opinions, and that's fine. But to me, this is painfully bittersweet. Life has a way of throwing things at you that are unavoidable and out of your hands completely, and just like life, this was inevitable. The Executors are inevitable, and I believe we'll be talking about them in the fandom for a long time to come. After all, there is one living just below our noses the entire time. Vorgoth. He's even named in the game files as being one of them. Curious, don't you think? There are a lot of things that haven't been touched upon, the other Evanuris, the origins of the Qunari, and what exists beyond the sea itself. Veilguard was a game about endings, but it was also a game about beginnings. If EA sees reason, we'll get all the answers we're looking for, and more. If you have any further questions, let me know. If there's anything you want covered that you're confused about, also let me know. I do want to say that I vastly appreciate everyone's kind comments on my review of Veilguard. They really cut through the bullshit that all the others were spouting. This game, like any other game, isn't for everyone, and I think talking about Veilguard positively and continuing to do so will drown out the naysayers. Remember to be kind to each other, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.